Welcome, everyone, to the Fashion Matrix podcast. This is Pablo Mentor, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited because I have a friend, a dear friend of mine, as a guest, as a special guest, Mr. Brian Casella. What's up, bro?
Hola, Pablo. What's up, man? How's everything? You know I'm chilling. You know I'm loving life. You know I wouldn't trip.
Well, the microphone, you know what I'm saying? The podcast, you know what I'm saying? It's just me. So, well, we always joke around. We always fuck around because he mentioned it the other day. Well, we were doing an event. We always fuck around. We don't take shit so seriously, yet at the same time, we do things very seriously. And that's like a mind fuck for everyone that is listening to right now. You don't have to take it so seriously, but you have to be very effective at the same time. All right. And that's why I enjoy doing this type of things with you, man, and doing podcasts and events. By the way, we have an event tomorrow, Saturday, 26th of March, right? 2022. It's going to be phenomenal. Cracking the Code Part 3. But for today, I want to bring Brian to talk about something that we actually disagree on. Okay. And I want you guys to see it. He doesn't know what the fuck we're going to talk about, but I want you guys to perceive how proper communication can be done, even if you don't agree in the same things. Because it's something that I'm seeing and we're seeing in today's world. You don't have to agree with anybody. You don't have to agree with even with your best friends. You don't have to. You are your own person. What is something that I always say as a Toltec? Be a person of your own experience. And there are certain things that you will disagree on, okay? But that's part of life. That's how you grow. And it's not about you being right or the other person being right. It's about listening to both parties and coming up with a third one that brings both together and makes it even better. You take my part, I take his part, and then we create something better. And we'll see if we can do that and achieve this tonight. Tonight. All right. So, well, welcome again. And I wanted to talk about spirituality, right? I've heard you talking that a lot of people are not ready for it, that it makes them go crazy, right? That it's something that we're seeing more and more and more today. It is a prophecy from the Lakota people and many other cultures, native cultures. They said that this was going to happen, that ayahuasca was going to get, cool, that it was going to be popular again, all these things, which is happening, right? Everyone is now talking about DMT, where back in the day, nobody even know what that was. DMT is one of the strongest chemicals that we have in ourselves. Okay. And everyone talks about ayahuasca. Everyone talks about peyote, about shrooms, like you motherfuckers said, with Teonanacatl, about shamanism, about higher consciousness and awareness, and about all these things, right? And now everyone is a shaman, similar to being a coach. Now, literally everyone, you hear it all day. And I see it on Instagram. I see it on Facebook. I see it on TikTok. Everyone is doing it, right? So you say that people are not ready for that, right? For that level of information. And you actually told me that you try to stay away and deviate from those type of words because it's you don't want to be associated with these type of things, even though you know them and you've experienced them. You don't want to be associated with that because you say that people are not ready because they might get crazy and they lose track of what's more important, which is making money and grabbing a hold of their lives. Now, I'll start with my point of view, and then I want you to say, right? The way that I see it is everyone is ready for spirituality, because spirituality is not that you become spiritual in spirituality. You don't get into spirituality. You are spirituality because you have a spirit, right? Everyone is ready for spirituality. The problem is that is the division, right? That's how I see it, bro. A lot of people always try to divide. No, it's either money or it's either spirituality. How about both, right? Why not both? Why not having that higher sense of purpose and still make money through your purpose? Or how about talking about ayahuasca and higher consciousness and series A and B while still being effective and living in the mundane third dimensional world, the matrix, right? So I don't know what you think about that, and I'd like to know your input on this. The way that I have a lot of things to say, but we'll go back and forth. That's how we do it. And my point of view to get started is everyone is ready. It's just knowing the techniques, having the proper guidance, and having the proper immersion, right? Doing it in the right way, similar to money. Because then the way that I see it, not everyone is ready to make money. Not everyone is ready to be rich. even if they make it, they'll go crazy. They'll start doing a lot of bullshit. And that's, to me, that's part of the main issue that we see in today's rotten society. There's the wrong people have a lot of money. The wrong people having that access to sources, resources, and misusing them, right? That's it for me.
And remember that everything compounds, all right? So the way he put it, I agree with a lot of what he said. So what he brought up, these are discussions that we had a lot.
Yeah.
And he mentioned something at the end that is very important, that I would recommend to people, right? He said having the right guidance, which is true. The issue that I see is people nowadays, especially, you look at younger people. I would say, in my experience, based on conversations that I've had, even though a lot of people are getting into the whole new age spirituality thing, whatever the fuck you want to call it, I, in my experience, have seen a lot more younger people really interested in it, right? And I stand on my position, not that, and he brought up, right, the division, right, which is a good point, right? I'm not necessarily saying, oh, just do this and don't do that. I believe, in my eyes, that the whole spiritual journey and what he represents and talks about, in my eyes at least, needs to be earned, right? So I get where he's coming from, and everybody does need it. However, in my mind, if somebody in the mundane world, the regular reality, can't show a basic understanding and mastery of keeping their emotions in check, right? Keeping their life together, and doing some of these basic things and disciplines. Like if I can't get somebody to wake up on time, make their bed, actually understand the importance of working out, feeding themselves properly, because, obviously what you put in is going to manifest in how your body looks, how it functions, right? Then you look at, like, the ceremony that we did, compare somebody who's coming in clean versus somebody who just comes in with a bunch of garbage, right? I feel like that even, and this is just my opinion now, right? It taints the experience and the ritual, because now it's like we have to deal with it, like the stories we were hearing last night too, even though we're not going to give details. So I look at it from maybe more of a warrior mentality, like, yo, this needs to be earned. Like, it's not just, oh, you're 5 years old now, yeah, let's do it. It's like, no, if this kid's 5 and he's demonstrated the ability to be ready for it, let's do it. Because some of the other examples I've given is the people who go way far into left field. And it's not like I see that every once in a while. I see a lot of people do it. It's just very few people go to the super extreme. Like we heard the other story of the guy who doesn't even recognize people anymore. It was like the friend of a friend, right? That's more extreme, right? I come from the perspective of it needs to be earned, because it's not something to play with. And you brought it up. Hey, let's do shrooms, bro. It's disrespectful, right? So maybe I'm being a little, we can say, anal about it, but it's something that, like, even in your actions in it, right, you take it serious, right? Like when he does the rituals, when he talks about it, it's a serious thing. It's not like, hey, we're not fucking around, like, hey, let's have a beer and fucking talk about it, right? Like, people say, hey, bro, have you done shrooms? He's like, it's not shrooms, right? Tonacanatal, what was it? Teonacatl, right? So even he jokingly will correct somebody. So I think we're pretty aligned. It's just different points of view, we can say, right? Because I understand where he's coming from, and I don't necessarily 100% disagree with him. It's just I look at it where he'll maybe be open to everybody. I would maybe look at half the room and be like, no, you're not ready. Let's try. It's like parole for prisoners. Come back in 6 months. We'll look at your file and we'll see if you're ready for this, right? So I maybe, because of the warrior influence and culture, it's like, yo, this has to be earned. I'm not just going to give it to you, right? Because it's almost, in my mind, and I'll pass it back to you, it's like you aren't familiar with any weapon, and I give you the most potent weapon on the planet, and you're just messing with it. You fire it and it could kill half the world,
No, that's, I completely agree with you. And I said, that we disagree because, that's going to make me get more likes and views, like, share, subscribe. But at the end of the day, we actually agree on a lot of things. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be friends. So you understand me. I understand you. We come from the same things, even though we express in different ways. But I totally understand you. And that's actually what we said the other day that we made the ceremony. This needs to be earned. But I have to say something that I want to get your input, though. This idea that the moment you're born, religion is important. I don't like the word religion. The etymology of religion comes from religare, which is from Latin, which basically means to reconnect. So if you study etymology, by the way, study etymology. If you study etymology, it'll free your mind. You'll understand communication way better. So religion is not something bad, okay? It's something necessary to give you more sense, more purpose of what's beyond this fucking suit made out of meat, right? But the way that I see it, people getting into this spirituality, right, is they heard it from someone, and that someone heard it from someone else, and they just made it because, I don't know, maybe it was cool, maybe they felt socially pressured, and they did it, and they get nothing out of it. So the way that I see it, and then I'll pass it back to you because I wanna hear your perspective, is before, well, you have a tendency to get into spirituality because you are a spiritual being, okay? It's normal to have that um, curiosity of, man, what else is there, or even just wanting to talk to ghosts, or conjure demons and talk to angels. You want to learn about that because it's a normal part of you. Yeah, literally. And some of these things are real. Some of them are just bullshit because they sell a lot of tickets. I've done some crazy stuff. I've experienced even crazier stuff that I won't talk about, but some of the things that you see in movies are actually real. Some of them. But the point into getting into spirituality is most of us are born, when talking about spirituality, in a dogmatic way, right? You're Christian. That's it. The way that I see it is, before you even begin to learn about some foreign religion, which is great, right? Yoga is great, but that's for the Hindus. Buddhism is absolutely amazing, but that's for Asians, right? Taoism, or the Tao, it's actually phenomenal. I've gotten some of the greatest lessons from Reiki and all that. But as you evolve, it's like, I don't know, making money or selling real estate. First learn, I mean, now that you are worldwide, right? You just literally became worldwide. Your team BC, it's beyond America right now.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
That's fucking amazing.
International.
I mean, that's, congratulations, brother. Damn, that's amazing. Imagine if you just gotten started into real estate and you wanted to become international. I mean, first start locally, right? That's the way that I see spirituality. First start with the native culture that you were born in, even if you're not Native American, which we all come from the same, by the way. But start with showing respect in the land that you were born, in the land that you, even if you're not born there, in the land that you're living currently, right? So let me give you an example. I'm Mexican, right? I was born into the Toltecayotl. That's the religion of my ancestors. You can call them Aztecs, Mexicas, Mayans, whatever you wish to call them. The actual culture that sums everything up, it's Toltecayotl, right? Those that don't know it, maybe you've read the book, The Four Agreements. It kind of covers just the very superficial aspects of the Toltecayotl. Let's say that I go live into China or Japan. Even though I've learned so much about the Toltecayotl, I would learn more about the Japanese culture and about their spirituality and their perceptions and their beliefs about how everything was created, just to honor the land where I'm living, right? So the way that I perceive spirituality is, yeah, you can learn from Jesus, you can learn from that guy and Buddha and all of them. That's great. But first start locally, right? And that's how you start to get a little bit more awareness of you and your ancestors and about where you're stepping in, where do you live, where you're living. And I think that's way more spiritual than going into a church, following some dogmatic point of view, doing things without any awareness, just because you're being told to do something, right? They don't even know. I mean, it makes me mad a little bit that doing this whole rituals of eating the bread and the flesh of God, which, by the way, that's very like, if you don't believe in magic and you think that I'm a demonic entity because I do my ceremonies, you're eating literally the blood and the flesh of a god, right? That's a ritual on its own. That's some ceremonial shit. But you don't even understand it. It's not even your own culture. So yeah, maybe you eventually you can learn from it, right? Eventually. But I don't know. What do you think about that, man?
Well, what comes to my mind, dude, is what you're describing. One is self, and the other one is just external, right? Internal versus external. Internal would mean it's my own journey, right? Let's say I'm from South America, right? And the Mapuches or the Indians. Okay, the Native Americans. I want to study that. That's where my family's from. Same thing, the Aztecs, Mexicas, and all that. But that's not pushed on you. That's not popular. That would be you saying, "Hey, I'm from this area. I want to study it. Let's do it." My great grandfather, great great grandfather, they're from these lands. Let's learn. What is my family about? What did they do? What were they known for? Right? That's cool. Same thing like when I went to go visit New York. They have a statue. Who knows if this is 100% accurate or not? But the first boat that came, I think from Europe, those first passengers that came, they have all their last names on there. So you can go and you can see, right? Because then, hey, if your last name, you don't know, okay, this last name is from Denmark or England or whatever, because every culture has its, spiritual aspect, right? So starting with that, with a genuine, like you said, curiosity, hey, where's my family from? I think everybody gets to a point where they finally hit that. It's just people stop. They're like, oh, who are my cousins? And then that's it, because they feel like that spiritual part is already in place by religion, but then they never explore it. Why? Because it's given to them from the outside. Another example I can give you is I used to hate reading because I was forced to read in school. But the moment I started my self-education, I'm like, fuck, I love reading now and listening to audiobooks, right? It's different. One was like, I want to do this. I'm interested in this. I want to study it. The other one was, hey, you have to do this. Hey, you have to read that. Hey, you have to pray to Jesus every night. You have to eat his flesh and blood, right? And all that. You don't question it. Then the same thing. Well, you guys are doing something demonic because that's the old Native American. And say, dude, you literally just accepted the flesh and blood of, because it's Jesus, it's okay, but because he does it with Quetzalcoatl, it's bad, right? Because you don't know it. Yeah. Same thing. It's literally the same thing in that context, but like completely one is okay because society says it's okay, right? I mean, it's very relatable to other things. It's just, we do naturally fall into the curiosity, and because that's a subject that a lot of people don't know, I think they're a lot more likely to fall into the trap of any authority figure that seems knowledgeable about it. Like we were talking about the blank king, and all these people, right? Because I don't want to just call people out, right? And it's just like, oh, this person has a following. They seem like they know what they're talking about. Let's study them instead of you doing your own research, right? And that's really that's why I really started getting into the Egyptian stuff. It's not that, oh, I'm black and right. It's just, I'm interested in it. Same thing with studying, the Spartan culture and all that. You identify with the warrior aspects in them. But the interesting thing is, and I'll pass it to you, the people that I've met from those cultures, if you actually study their shit and you know about it, they actually respect you because you're actually studying it. It's like the same if I go to, or if I go to like China and they see that I'm learning the language, they'll be like, oh, okay, you're speaking. Okay. Automatic level of respect because you are honoring them by studying it and learning it. That's the difference, dude. Right. It's the same thing. If like, I would always tell him, if the salesman comes up to me and they're throwing technique after technique, I know it's technique, but I'm like, hey, okay, this guy's doing his thing. So I'm not going to be like, that's a technique. I'm going to actually go along with the sale because I want to buy, but I'll appreciate the fact that he's following a process and using technique. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like literally cracking the code, like our event. Like you can see it from a mile and you understand the patterns and you see why it's happening. And that's beautiful. It gets you to a whole different level. Now, I want to talk about something else that also you've mentioned before, and I want to dive deeper into it in regards to emotions. I've heard you saying a lot of times that emotions are like the root of most problems, right? Being emotional, like you should not be emotional, which I get, but I want you to talk about it, of course. And like emotions are something to avoid, right? Now, I'll say it my piece and then I'll pass it to you. Of course, emotions are, if you get used by them, it's wrong, right? Of course. This was a teaching passed on to me by the Lakota people here in North America. They told me, think with your heart, but feel with your brain. And for a long time, I didn't understand because they didn't explain or elaborated on that teaching. They were just giving me that. And I was like, what the fuck does that even mean, man? But then eventually you have to earn it. Like you said, you have to earn the teaching itself. And I understood that if you are used by your emotions, you're not using your brain. You're not using it wisely. Emotions are literally just an energy, and they're here to teach you something, but they're very important. And I think that most people, if they were more in touch with their true emotions, feeling happy, feeling sad, allowing themselves to feel, I think the world would be a better place. But literally knowing how to harness them, not being used by them. Because then on the other side of the spectrum is that we see a lot of emotional people, and they get angry and they can talk and blah 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 blah, right? But I want to dive deep into that. uh Emotions to me are very important, right? I know that they're one side of the yin and the yang, but they're very important because it allows us to be human. Is what makes us uh exist. Is what makes us compassionate. What makes us want to transcend, want to help, want to evolve, want to improve. Or even if you feel sad, that's how you know that I don't want to be in this situation, right? So I think a lot of people are just bottle up, right? Like, nope, nope, especially within the warrior mentality, for example, or as being men, you and I, as being males. I think that's also being pushed on too much. Well, now not so much, but when we were growing up, I remember that being a man means you're not supposed to feel. Yeah, like placazo, you're not supposed to cry, right? Being a man doesn't cry. I think that's bullshit. In my own perception, I think that's bullshit. And I've met a lot of men, and especially me growing up without a male figure and growing up without a father, I searched for a lot of manly groups and shit like that. And I realized that both bunch of them are just full of shit, and it's just ego, and it's just a facade. When the reality is that emotions are there. So what do you think about all of this shit?
Yeah, man, there's a lot I can say about it. You brought up a good point. I think a lot of people, the first mistake that's made, and this is what people need to understand, right? If I make a speech to particular students, I'm speaking to people who I know are at a particular level, right? Like I can talk with Pablo about emotions in a different way, right? So first thing is this: a lot of people mislabel emotions that they feel. As an example, somebody starts with me. We know that as human beings, we are uneasy, fear, whatever you want to label the unknown, because we don't know what it is. Like right outside of my house right now, it's dark. If I take a complete stranger, remove all the houses, and it's just pitch black, and I drop them there and say, there's nothing here, there's no animals, you're totally safe, and I leave them there and I leave, that first night, they're going to be terrified. Any noise, wind, what's that? Now, after they've been there a couple of days, they know, oh, that's the wind. Oh, that's the branch that always, they know, they become familiar with it, right? So a new salesperson comes to me, and this is how I mess with them, just to get them to start understanding. They're like, oh man, I'm scared of calling people on the phone. I'm like, are you scared? Or is that excitement? Or is it energy? Or what is it? And they start thinking. I'm like, you see, the fact that you even had to think about it means you're not sure. So do you even know what emotion you're feeling? So we mislabel. Same thing with you. We use the wrong words. Like a lot of times people will say, oh, I feel blah, blah, blah. And they'll describe something that's not an emotion. They'll describe something that's not, it's like, dude, that's not an emotion, right? Exactly. So there's a disconnect and misunderstanding there first and foremost, right? Another thing that I talk about is in the context of decision-making for people, especially in the business world or even day-to-day actions. I tell them a lot of times in the intensity of emotion, you make rash decisions. Like there's been times where I'm so upset at my cats, I want to kill them in the moment. But would that be a wise decision for me to make? Absolutely not. Like, right? I'm sure you've been upset where you fought somebody, a bully messed with you. And for a moment, you're like, I want to fucking kill this dude. But did you actually do it? No. What caused you to suddenly have that thought? A spike in emotion, right? But again, he brought up a good point. I teach people to sit with the emotion, because I say, look, next time you get angry, just tell yourself, I'm going to wait 5 minutes before I do anything. In 5 minutes, you won't even be angry anymore. That's a tactic I teach people. That's why you tell the people that you sell, if you're going to meet with them tomorrow, tell them some of the stuff today that they're going to get mad about. By tomorrow, they're not mad anymore, right? And it's gone. But in the moment, they may not make a decision or make the wrong decision because triggered, right? That's the word now, right? So a lot of it is people's misunderstanding of emotion, misinterpretation. Again, not being able to sit with an emotion to realize like, okay, this is temporary. And then you have the other side, which is using emotions correctly. Yeah. Like a buzzword and topic right now is, hey bro, do you practice sexual transmutation? Right? I get asked that every day. But again, that driving force for a man, the sexual energy, is fucking what keeps you going. So absolutely, I use that shit 100%. You know, so but we know how to use the emotions. Like when we talk about being grateful, when I feel grateful, when I say, okay, I'm grateful for this, I actually have the emotional reaction. It's like a euphoric feeling, right? He knows it too. So in what my response to that would be, in what respect are we talking to? Are we teaching, right? Because there's he said go deeper. There's a lot of layers to this. So if I'm talking to a 5-year-old versus talking to him, it's going to be a different level of discussion, right? And that's where I'm coming from when I speak about these subjects, because you know it's different for everybody, right? The person who is taking drugs because they can't deal with a particular emotion, like we were having those discussions last night, that's not right. You don't take something externally because you can't handle something internally, right? That's wrong. That causes vices and addictions and issues that the same human being that's doing it knows it's not right. You innately know that's not right. You're like, man, I shouldn't be smoking this shit anymore, but you still do it, right? And you suffer. We kill ourselves or drinking or whatever it is. It's crazy. So, I mean, this subject we can unpack a million different ways, man, but it's crazy because it's it's multifaceted. It's many layers, right? And everything compounds. So, you know, I'll pass it back to you, dude. But it's something that when you approach it, right, we tend to, and then I'll pass it back to Pablo, we tend to have a very one-track mind when we look at subjects like this. I can't just give you an end-all, be-all answer, because he said, you know, think with your heart, feel with your mind. Maybe I don't understand it at the level that he does, but I get what he's talking about because I can think of things where that's true. But there's going to be other situations where I may not do that, right? Because if I'm in a specific business situation and sometimes someone's emotional, I need to navigate that a different way, right? So it depends on the context too. So there is no just, hey, do this. And then people expect that answer. That's the thing. Hey, bro. And then they'll give you the whole thing. This. What do I do? It's like, well, I can't just give you one response.
Yeah. It's like the magic bullet for selling houses for you that you get that. Oh, how do you stay motivated?
But I don't have time to read. Just tell me now.
Yeah. Or with me, for example, being an image consultant, it's like, okay, just tell me what to wear. Like, well, where are you going? I mean, what the fuck? Are you going to church? Are you visiting your grandma? Or are you going to a business meeting? Like, come on. Of course, it depends on the context. Now, something that you didn't mention that I asked you that I want you to I pass it back to you in regards manliness. What do you think about that? Not allowing young men to feel, to cry, to all these things, man.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with our culture and society, whoever the authorities are. They don't push the right role models, right? Like you look at even something like war movies, right? With the warriors. If you really watch the movie, when they're with their wives, they're showing the softer side of themselves. They're asking their wife for advice when supposedly in that society, you're not supposed to ever listen to the woman or let her talk, right? They show vulnerability with them, right? Now you don't pay attention. You're blinded to that because you see their physique and you're like, oh, this guy's such a badass. And those are like, you know, even 300, right? There's certain moments where they show it. It may only be snippets, but it's there. Right. Same thing with all the, like, you look at any role model like Hypnotica, right? It always comes to my mind. He's a very manly dude, but he loves fucking gardening. Right. And so, and society's like, oh man, that's like the girliest thing. Well, this great example of an intelligent man who's alpha and who's strong. I mean, I don't know if you saw the video where some guy tried to rob him or someone else, and he stopped them and held them in a lock until the police came to make sure that, you know, and he filmed the video. He had a guy film the video. He's like, okay, this guy's a thief. I'm stopping him. You don't want to do this, right? And then he said, this is why you need to learn how to fight and defend yourself. But then he's gardening, like, oh, I love this new plant that I put together in my new garden, right? So, but if we had more examples like him, right, then the world would be a different place. So yeah, so the people just aren't, because of course, man, like when we do the ceremonies, we cry. Like the first year I was in real estate, I broke down in tears like 3 or 4 times. I have no problem admitting that. Why? Because the only reason you wouldn't admit that is because of the fear of judgment, or again, ego, or people telling you you're not supposed to do that. Like Ice Cube face, right? It's supposed to be tough. You got to be hard, fool. You know, like never show weakness. That's all the prison talk and all that shit, which, okay, maybe in that specific context, in that environment, but guess what? When it's dark at night, those guys aren't making noise, but some of them are crying. right? Because you have to. If you don't, and then I'll pass it back to him, those are the people that end up becoming fucking serial killers and blowing up and having these issues because you're not releasing the emotion. And it's just a plethora, like that word, a plethora of issues, right? And that's the problem. But I think the main thing is growing up or kids looking up to these figures, they don't have the right ones. So they have that loudmouth asshole on YouTube who's, you can never cry. And, oh, I haven't cried since I was 3 years old, right? And they say all this bullshit and people believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's something cool to flex on. Oh, I don't cry. I'm a man. That's stupid, man. But that's exactly why I wanted to make this podcast, so that you motherfuckers can actually see two men that are in touch with their emotions, right? Especially
it's all about working out and muscles.
For example, I recently became a father. I became more emotional now, and I have a daughter. So guess what? I'm gonna be even way more emotional. I have to be even more soft because she's a girl, right? So all of these things, I think they're very important to talk about. And you brought up something very, very correct. We need more true role models like you, like me, like Hypnotical, right? So we need to be looking at the right people, and it's okay to ask for help, because this is another thing. Whether you're a woman or a man, I think now the roles are being pushed in the opposite way, right? I think now male are being more vulnerable, which is, there's nothing wrong, but this too much vulnerability, it fucks up with your energy. And now women are being more like tough, and that's great, but too much of that, it strips away from your vulnerability, and it's unbalanced, right? And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to do that. And by asking for help, you'll start searching on YouTube, what does it mean to be a man? And maybe a video from Brian Casella will pop up, maybe a video from me, maybe a video from one of our mentors or something like that. You'll start on that journey. Okay. Maybe this podcast will show up. I don't know. Instead of just being how do you say it? Hypnotized with this idea, this wrong belief that what you see in the movies is what it means to be a man. That'll fuck you up. That'll fuck you up. If you just follow the news, and if you just follow the movies, and if you just follow what is being pushed onto you, the advertising, all that, it's just pure manipulation of perception. It's as simple as that. So that's why I wanted to bring him in. I think this was a very, very, very great podcast. I think it's fair enough if we start wrapping it up. I don't know if you want to, any last thoughts?
I don't know if you want us to do any more or give any more gold nuggets. I don't mind, man. Let's go panning. But no, man, I think it's good, right? We, like he mentioned, even with us, like he said in the beginning, there's more things that we don't particularly 100% see eye to eye on. It doesn't matter, dude, because we can talk about it. And he brought up being a man. Men can sit there and talk it out and not have to fucking fight. And, oh, you're a bitch and I'm going to shoot you and all this dumb bullshit, which is, again, glorified in our fucking culture, right? It's just ridiculous. But more intellectual discussion needs to be had, because we also have the dichotomy where we have that, but we're also working out, boxing, going to the gym, and the potential and ability to fuck shit up is there if we need to. Yeah. Right. And I think about that all the time. And we talk about it. I say, dude, I really hope somebody doesn't get to the point where they're like fucking with me and like instigating a fight, because I feel sorry for them. But I'm not walking around like, yo, dog, I'm a tough motherfucker. Look at me. What are you looking at, dog? Like, not at all. But the potential to destroy somebody's there. But hey, the potential is good enough. I know that's within me. The real wisdom there is being able to control that, right? And know when to unleash it and when not to, and what the right thing is to do, right? Doing the right thing, which we all know, but very few people actually do it. That's the thing. Like when people have the opportunity to, charge people extra or scam, they do it and like, shh, we're going to screw this guy over. Don't say anything, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, stupid, man. Any fool can destroy something, right? I think it takes a real person to build someone, which is what we do. It's way harder to build a person, to build a company, to build an idea, to do something like that, to always be constructing and building and creating, instead of just being like, oh, I'll fuck you up and I'll destroy you, which is the world that we live in today. It's all about division and destruction and blah, 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 all this bullshit that we see. Literally, we are seeing a rotten society. The values that this society was built on they started good, but then now they became shit. And now it is our time. It is our time. The time of Brian, the time of Pablo, the time you, if you're listening and watching this, to build a new, better, stronger society. Maybe not for us, but for the younger generations. I know that that's what keeps me moving forward. Not even just my kid, just leaving something, adding more than what I'm getting. Instead of asking for what I can get, I ask what I can give, what more I can give, right? And I think that actually takes more guts, more spirituality, more manliness than any other bullshit that you see in the movies or hear in other fucking podcasts or any shit like that, right? So I think that's it for today, man. Because we can go on and on and on and on. We'll probably make a fucking event on manliness because I've been telling you, trying to convince you to make a an event just for male, because I think this is something very important now in today's society. And yeah, man, I just love having these conversations with you. I know that we always agree on many things, but I wanted to make like, oh man, we're going to disagree, but we really didn't fucking disagree. It just make it. I want you to guys take this and apply it onto your own life instead of being like, oh no, this is what I believe in. No, oh wait, where's your vaccine passport? Oh shit, I said the word. Did I say the word? Cancel me. I didn't even say get it, don't get it. I just said the word. Oh. That's what is happening right now, man. You can't even say a word because you get triggered.
Misinformation.
By the way, I'm sorry if I triggered you. Just as a paying customer, I would like to say more things. Whatever, man. But anyway, thank you, man. I appreciate you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Remember, this is the Fashion Matrix podcast. Go to pablomentor.com to see all the events, all the things that I'm doing. If you're interested in more of the spiritual side, the things that I do, or go to Style Systems with a double S at the end, stylesystems.com for my image consulting business. And I'll leave all of the information for Brian, his briancasella.com, at Brian Casella. And if you follow me or if you follow my pages in my podcast, you'll always find out about this guy, right? Any more things? All right. Well, thank you. That's it for me.